And you notice how happy he is. His hair turned gray. He's so delighted. So I wanted to show off the stunt that I pulled in the past couple of months, which is to make a triple embedded Klein bottle. Unlike your usual boring, ordinary Klein bottles, which I'm perfectly happy to sell to you. Believe me, I'm delighted to sell these to you online at kleinbottle.com. I've just, in the past month, made a Klein bottle in a Klein bottle in a Klein bottle. So let me pass this around. Please don't hold it by these. To say it's fragile is an understatement. So pass that around gently, gently, gently. Meanwhile, I'm here to talk about something completely different, namely, how can you have the inside of a Klein bottle? Ask her, she knows. It's because div B equals 0. Whenever anybody asks you, just tell them div B is 0, and they'll agree with you. But what I'd really like to show you is something else that I did in the past year. Actually, my son Danny was applying to college, and he thought it'd be cool to get into college. He thought he'd have fun with topology, so he designed a hole in a hole in a hole. So this is I'll pass this around. However, you'll notice on this one, there's a crack in it. Look at this with your Google Glass. Notice the crack? This is because some moron almost dropped it. Don't you be another moron, and don't you touch around the glass, because I don't have any Band-Aids with me. So pass it around. You'll notice as this comes around that it's a hole through a hole in a hole. It's homeomorphic to a triple pretzel. It turns out you can do topological surgery and do wonderful things with that. Did I bring the giraffe? The carafe. No, but there's a mathematician named Carafiel at University of Chicago that attracted my son enough that he's going to U of Chicago math department. So all of which has nothing to do with what I'm here for. What time is it, incidentally?
10:25.
Oh, it's 10:25. I got 5 minutes to talk before the talk starts. There
we go.
Wonderful. Will you marry me?
I would, but
This hasn't stopped a lot of people. You have to need enough to get through the next half hour. So the other thing, oh God! Before I start talking, I gotta tell you, I'm right now working with a group of transcendentally fantastic programmers. And nobody has asked me, not one person has said, Cliff, when you're up on stage, mention that Newfield Wireless is looking for Python programmers. So if you hear of somebody who really doesn't just know Python, but loves it, if you come across somebody who's like just so pumped up on programming, loves databases, can't stand to live without knowing what a protobuf is, if you come across somebody like this, send them over to Newfield Wireless in the Queen City of the left coast, Berkeley, California. Absolutely terrificness, because until you know what an E node B is, until you have been fooling around with RRCs and trying to figure out how to insert data into a cylindrical database, until you've done stuff like this, you don't know what living is. So if you know someone, or if you're someone who falls asleep thinking about heaps and double linked lists, If you wake up in the morning saying, good God, I've got a great way of doing hash functions, look for Newfield Wireless over in Berkeley. There are some utterly, and I might add, Newfield Wireless does not discriminate. We hire both right-handed and left-handed people. So is it time for me to start yet? What?
How are we going to measure the speed of light? We have some kind of clock.
How do you measure the speed of light? He asks. Do you have some kind of clock? Oh, are the pieces of glass still wandering around? For those people who are just showing up, please be extremely gentle. Like you don't want to know how many weekends that one cost me. So, 2 minutes before I start?
Or you can start now.
Can I start now? Okay. People, I would like, if I may, to measure the speed of light. In this talk, there will be one giant mistake. Your job is to find the giant mistake. I'm going to make a mistake in the next half hour. You should be quiet first. If you already know it right now, then go away. You know more physics than I do. At any rate, I'm going to make a mistake in this talk. I'll be making it on purpose. At the end of the talk, somebody ought to come up to me and say, "What's the mistake, Cliff?" Because my job in life, in physics, is to make mistakes and let my brain figure out what the mistake is. A guy over here who happens to be somewhat of a smart aleck says, "Where's your clock if you're going to measure the speed of light?" Well, my idea for measuring that there's about 50 ways to leave graduate school, and let me point out one of the ways to measure the speed of light. There's lots of them. Remember those cheesy LED things that you chase cats around your house with? Laser point gizmos? Damn it. I've lost my cheesy one. Oh, here it is, maybe. One of the niftiest things about working for... check this out, guys. Far out! A sign on my office, my laboratory at the Lunar Planetary Labs used to say, "How many times can you look into a laser beam?" And the answer was twice. Once, twice, right? The cool thing about this laser pointer, right? You've all seen these. The cool thing is it says Newfield Wireless on it. Notice, look right there. Does it say yes?
Yes. Yes.
Did you hear that? An expert agreed that this says Newfield Wireless, creators of the finest analysis software for cellular networks in the entire universe. And you, if you know enough Python, if you know enough C++, if you know how to sort a hash table, never mind. What I'd like to do with this laser pointer is make a beam of light from over here, right? Go across the room over to a mirror over here, and then come back over here. And I'd like to take a stopwatch and go tick, tick to see how fast, how long it takes for this beam of light to go from one side to the other. I have a slight problem in that I don't have a very fast stopwatch, and my fingers are a little slow. Therefore, instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the cache annoyance laser on and off and on and off. Instead of with a push button, I've wired it up to a Hewlett-Packard signal generator. So over here is this wonderful HP signal generator, and for those of you over here you can sort of see that there's a light blinking on and off. Yes, no? Those of you over there, you're going to have to trust me. My wife has a story about that, and she'd advise otherwise. But for you, I won't tell you that. Anyway, there's a blinking LED right over here. And I'm sorry to say they won't let me have a video cast. The people at Maker Faire refuse. They refuse to put this on video. Therefore, when I measure the speed of light, you're going to have to assume that, oh yeah, there's some gizmos over here. The first gizmo is a laser beam. And I'm turning it on and off and on and off. And so it blinks on and off, just like his pocket is blinking on and off, right? Exact same thing, except instead of doing it cheap and cheesy the way he's doing it, I've spent like $10 million on a signal generator. Same idea. The beam of light goes all the way clear across over to this, a high-tech mirror that I walked off with when I was in graduate school. Don't tell anyone at the Lunar and Planetary Labs that they're missing a mirror. The light hits the mirror, and then, to my amazement, it bounces off of it and comes back over here. Gentle with it, gentle. So when the light comes back here, so here's a mirror. The light comes back into a truly wonderful device called a photodiode. Heart be still, photodiodes. They turn photons into electrons using secret quantum mechanical techniques that they won't tell anyone except people who know something special. Coming out of this photodiode will be jolts of megavolts. In fact, just throw it over to him. Feel free to cut your finger on the cracked part. So, keep me posted on time. 38. Okay, so light goes across, comes back, and from here, I'm going to take the electricity that comes out of the photodiode and put it on a screen so that when there's no light, the dot will be down here. When there's light, it goes up. The screen is something called an oscilloscope. Oscilloscopes, probably, especially Tektronix oscilloscopes, for reasons that I won't say why. HP oscilloscopes, he says. Look at that. Oscilloscopes are 3 notches down from being married to a wonderful woman. So I've got the first one done. Like, skip 2 more, and then I've got an oscilloscope. That's how important a dual trace oscilloscope is. It's wonderful. And did I mention hash functions? Yes, you know hash functions? Aren't they wonderful? Newfield Wireless at the corner of Telegraph Avenue near Ashby. Stop by later. And what? Q radio. GNU radio. No. Not GNU Field Wireless, although we do use open source software. Having said this, this oscilloscope right there has 2 traces on it. And so every time a light beam is bounced off the mirror, it comes back here. Watch this cleverness. Watch me be smart. I'm going, in addition to this beam of light going all the way across and back, I'm going to have a beam splitter So there's a beam splitter right here. Now let's half the light go that way, and half the light goes into another eyeball, another photodiode. So I've got a long pathway over here that my photons sort of just stumble along and come back over here. Meanwhile, I have a short path that's only a foot long going from here through a beam splitter back to a second photodiode. Okay, so the second photodiode, the first photodiode I'll bring here. The second photodiode I'll put on that screen. Sensible? In other words, I'm going to make a differential measure of the timing of pulses of light. Mind you, this is all done and was all done so that in my backyard physics class that I taught to East Bay homeschoolers a couple of years ago, and the idea is let's measure the speed of light using stuff that you can get at yard sales. All of this equipment I got at yard sales. They're giving away oscilloscopes in Silicon Valley. No kidding. It's bizarre. So pick a few up on your way. So let me crank this up. For those of you who are further than like 2 feet away, I'm going to have to describe things. Right now, instead of being turned on once a second like his blinking LED is, this blinking LED, you can just throw it out. And if you come work at Newfield Wireless, you will understand the secrets of this, which I won't mention anymore other than to say buried inside of this triple Klein bottle is a secret. But if I told you, it'd no longer be a... Never mind. So, okay, I've got two beams, one going a long path, one going a short path. The time of arrival between this point here and this point here, where the signals both go up, delta t, that time difference should be related to the speed of light. If I can measure that time, I'm in Fat City. Unfortunately, it turns out ordinary stopwatches don't work. I have to rely upon Tektronix. Something which I'll mention I do quite often, but that's another story. So, boy, this is boring because almost all of you can't see what I can see, namely 2 traces on the screen. That's too bad because I control the horizontal. I control the vertical. And having done that, instead of turning it on once or twice a second, I'm going to turn this laser beam on and off 1 million times every second. 1 megahertzes. So 1 million times a second, this beam is being, oh. If I'm lucky, and I may not be lucky, I hope that when I walk in front of the beam, one of those goes to 0. Yes, no? And notice it does it even if I do it way over here. Watch. Yes, no? Is that cool? Action at a distance. Kepler was impressed when he figured that one out. Who gave me that wonderful talking gizmo? Unwrap it too. Please. So the question then becomes, How much time is this? Well, turning it on and off all the way up to 1 million times a second, I have to adjust how fast the beam of the oscilloscope goes by. And my nice... I've got 2 of them in my mouth now. Too many. You didn't see that. I now have 2 beams, and they used to be a square wave. Unfortunately, due to high frequency cutoff, cheesiness of a homemade amplifier, and cruddiness in a physicist's understanding of LC circuits, my square wave has sort of become a triangular wave, and it soon becomes sort of a sine wave-ish looking thing. But that's okay. I can look at the time difference. Instead of the time difference between nice square waves, I'll look at the time difference between sort of that pulse and that pulse. I'll just look at that time difference. Yes, no? I'm probably running out of time. What time is it?
47.
47, so I've got enough time to do something. Okay, so I'll invite an unbiased observer up here. Watch, he's going to measure this time difference using a high-tech 1983 oscilloscope. Come on over. He'll nod his head in agreement if I'm lying, right? Nod your head, meaning that I'm lying.
Okay.
Right? Is that the mistake? Oh, I forgot about that. Let's see here. Notice there's two traces.
There are 2 traces.
One of which can be blocked here. Another one can be blocked here. Try blocking that one. Look at that. Look at that. Is that amazing? You say yes.
Yes.
Meaning that it's not amazing. His head nodding is the inverse of. So let's have, I'll adjust the cursors on this oscilloscope. Is this more or less the peak there? And the second one more or less the peak there? And the time difference is?
48.2 nanoseconds.
Ah, let me repeat that for those of you on drugs. He said the time difference between the outgoing beam and the short path beam is what? Ah, so it's taking light 48.2 nanoseconds, to complete that travel. Yes, no? Come on up, quick, don't wait. Basic physics says in order to do the speed of light, we have to know 2 things. What is speed measured in? What's speed measured in? What? Miles per hour, right? Yeah, so a distance and a time. We've got a time there, 48.2 nanoseconds. What's the distance that the light has traveled? I don't know. Stand right here with that. Quick. Take this and walk all the way to the mirror. Come on up, quick. Quick. That kid, if he's chicken, come on, quick. Okay. This is, what number is this right here?
70.
670, yeah? 6.70 meters. Great. Okay, wind it back up. 6.70 meters from over here to over there. Yes, no? Got it? Okay, knowing this, knowing that we've gone 6.7 meters in 48.2 nanoseconds. Who can tell me the speed of light? How would I do it? Well, how do I calculate it? Come on, physicists. You're pointing your finger. 2, 2, 1. Huh? Double the distance. Why should I double the distance? Why should I double the distance? Light's traveling this way, and it's traveling that way, no? So really, I want to say 6.7 meters times 3, 2, equals minus what? Oh, minus short path. Is that correct? Yes, no? It turns out the short path is equal to that long, which is about 1/4 of a meter. So I'll just subtract it from this. Instead of 6.7, I'll make it 6.5 meters times 2 over 48.2 times 10 to the minus 9 seconds. Yes, no? What, did I do it wrong? Close enough? Okay, so okay, those of you who are really good at math can do this for me. 6.6 times 2 is 131. Yes, no? Did I do it right? 132. Okay, so it's 132 divided by 4.82. I get 2.74. Yes, no? Prove it. Make sense? In other words, that's the speed of light. And we hit it right here. Okay, guys, we've got about a minute or two left. What am I doing wrong? The error. Okay, the first thing is there's an error. What's the error?
No, there's air involved, not vacuum.
There's error involved. There's air involved, not vacuum. So what else? What other mistakes? I don't know which what? Which bump? Oh, excellent point. I pulled the wool over your eyes. It might have been 10 humps between one and the next. You're going to have to trust me on that one. I actually did it fast so that I'd save time. But if we had half an hour, we could prove that, in fact, we're not doing that. But yeah, we have to watch for multiple bumps. What other mistakes am I making? Come on. You're physicists. What are the mistakes? Right. Are the wires the same length? Is this wire right here the same length as this wire right here? And the answer is sort of, but is the capacitance the same? Another problem. Come on, guys. Are the photodetectors cheesy? I got them at Weird Stuff in Silicon Valley. So the answer is yes, they're cruddy. And I built the electronics, which doubly makes it cruddy. Yes. It's yes. Where is the clock in all of this? Tektronix makes the clock. Now, I should point out to you that the president of Tektronix was involved in the Enron scandal. In fact, when this was made, the president of Tektronix was on the board of directors for Enron. Would you trust an oscilloscope made by a company under the directorship of another company that went bankrupt? No. In other words, this may have a cruddy clock. Any other mistakes possible? Measurements, visual measurements. Do you trust his view of these sine waves here? How myopic is he? He has excellent vision, 20/20, which means that it could be off by 20%. What are other problems? Other problems. Come on, quick, quick. Speaking of loud stentorian voice. Gravity. Oh, yeah, relativistic effects. I didn't actually measure it. Come on. There's another possible mistake, people. What? What's another possible mistake? I've been told imperial units. I've been told, incidentally, not to stand over here when I give a talk. Apparently, it makes for interesting things, but certainly one problem is, has this tape measure been calibrated? No! How do I know it hasn't been calibrated? I got it for 50 cents at a Berkeley yard sale a month and a half ago. Crappy calibration. How much time do I have? 2 minutes. One of the important part in doing any experiment, any physics, is not getting the right answer. Richard Feynman said, if you do an experiment, your answer, by God, is right. Theoretical people, theoreticians, come up with all sorts of cool things, like div b is 0, and the sum of the currents into a node must sum to 0. But if you do an experiment and prove that otherwise, it's up to the theorists to show otherwise. However, there is one huge problem with what I've done here. 35 years ago, I could have legally done this experiment. Up until 1982, this was a legal experiment. Now, it's an impossible experiment. Does that make sense to you physicists? Yeah, you're nodding your head because you took E&M. But in 1982, the International Standards Association and NIST, the United States, agreed that a fundamental standard of the United States and the whole world would be the speed of light. In other words, catch this. The speed of light is fundamental. It does not change. Therefore, the giant mistake that I made is in the title of the talk. No matter how hard you try, the speed of light remains constant, and it's defined to be 2.99 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. No matter how hard you try, you can't measure the speed of light. So what was it that we were measuring? Speak louder, I can't. We were measuring the actual distance. More specifically, what we were doing was measuring the length of the meter. In other words, you cannot measure the speed of light today, but you can legally and legitimately measure how long a meter is in terms of the speed of light. And so what I'd like to leave you with is this thought. When you're doing physics, when you're doing science, the essential thing is not to get the answer that somebody else says is right. No! The essential thing is to figure out what's going wrong and in your own way build an understanding for the universe around you. Thank you very much.